I started dealing with this young lady. Perhaps in 91. Yeah, I think it was 91. I started dealing with this young lady who who was one I ended up starting Diva magazine with. And I had put her through real estate school. And when she got her license and all of that, she started helping Puff get apartments for his artists out there in Jersey, because we lived in
Oh, well, that's a pretty
lived in
close. So
Hackensack.
you had a business kind of tie to, not per se, but like your girlfriend, who you paid for her school, she was helping Bad Boy Records, or maybe it was still Uptown. So that's like fairly. That's interesting.
I think that was still. I don't know. May have been. It might have still been. It might have been Uptown. It might have been Uptown.
Because he didn't get the money. It was about 93, maybe, when he got Bad Boy.
Right. So maybe it was Uptown. I think it was Uptown. So, she was getting the rooms or the apartments for artists and over in around where we lived, in Teaneck, Hackensack area, stuff like that. Which is how she and I connected in the first place. She lived in Teaneck. She's from Teaneck. And I wanted to get a place. I was living in the Bronx, and I was making a lot of bread, and I just wanted, it was time for me to, really get somewhere else, you know what I'm saying? And so I had met the young lady at the rink in Jersey, which was a popular roller skater rink. And I asked her, if she could maybe help me find an apartment out there. She was familiar with the place, it's the terrain and all of that, so maybe help me find an apartment out there. So when, we started, she found the apartment for me, like that, whatever, and that's how we started kind of just connecting and shit like that. So when, she was like, well, she wanted to do something. She graduated from Fairleigh Dickinson, so she wanted to do something. It's like,
oh, that's funny. My friend became a professor at Fairleigh.
Really? Yeah, she got a bachelor's of science from there. So, when she graduated, she wanted to do something. So, I was like, the real estate thing, that was a good thing. Even back then, real estate in that Bergen County had some most expensive fucking real estate in
Teaneck was sort of like a Mount Vernon, like a nice upscale suburb, but with a lot of black population.
The Isley Brothers and all that, everybody looked out there. Whitney Houston, Eddie Murphy,
so that had been a step up from Mount Vernon,
Inglewood Cliffs and all that, so.
That was better than Mount Vernon.
Yeah. I mean, Jersey is better than the city, than New York. You know what I mean? Northern New Jersey, it's like New York, but it's like suburbs. You know what I mean?
Northern New Jersey has some
play.
nasty areas, but New Jersey has some very nice. The nice parts of New Jersey remind me of the nice parts of Michigan, like lot of trees, like just classy people, not like low lives with money.
Like, very well patrolled.
Nice people.
I mean, one day I was out riding
very
my
well
bike.
patrolled.
I was out riding my bike one night, just riding my bike, beautiful summer night, and I'm going down Teaneck Road, I think. Yeah, I was going down Teaneck Road, and police pulled beside me and said, pull over. And I started laughing and kept going. And he pulled up again. He's like, pull over. I just kept on laughing like, you funny. And he said, oh, for real? I said, you serious? He said, yeah. I said, how the hell you pulling me over on a bike, bro? And he's like, you could be pulled over on a bike. I said, get the fuck out of here. He said, for real.
It's a moving vehicle.
Yeah, I didn't know that. But that's the kind of place it was. You know what I mean? That's the kind of place it was. Like very well patrolled and stuff like that. It was safe place to be. So that's kind of really what you're paying for. But anyway, so she started working with him, helping him, get these spots for his artists. And there was a situation where, I was messing with this other chick in Harlem, and she was really in Manhattan, and she was also friends with Puff, right? So I had never met him. Our lines had no reason to cross, like even with the, him being in Harlem and kicking
So
with
it's
the guys.
two women
since he
that
dealt
you
with.
have this one degree of separation.
Right. So even with you know, the guys that he was hanging out with, whom I knew all of, whatever, you know, I just knew those guys, and like, you know, because they from Harlem, you know, we knew each other
Were
from
they
past and
street
stuff.
guys or are they just some Harlem guys?
No, not really. Like, you know, at a certain point, everybody tried their hand because there was just so much material, so much opportunity,
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
Everybody tried their hand, but I wouldn't say that any of them were really like they, you know,
They weren't of note.
They weren't, you know. That was my vocation. Period. Like, they might have dibbed and dabbed, they might have dabbled or whatever, but that was what I did for a living. So
They weren't
like what I did. Yeah.
Rico ready.
No, not at all. Not at all. And so the other girl that I was dealing with, right? She went to Puff had a party, and he had this party at his crib somewhere, right? And so she went, and my girl who lived with me went, and so they knew about each other, whatever. And so they're both at this party, and you know, it's Puff is in his home, and he's with his partner at the time, the kid Mark. So you know, they're comfortable, you know. And
Mark, not Mark Curry.
no, not Mark Curry. I forgot Mark's last name. I forgot his last name. But this was his partner, like, forever. I'm surprised his name hasn't come up in all these.
That term has taken on a new phrase in the last 20 years.
It did.
Proceed.
Yes.
Proceed.
Yes. On some real shit. So this is kind of like in line with that, right? So they both go to this party, right? And I didn't go to Puff parties. I didn't go to his parties. Like, I don't think I've ever been to one of his parties.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, even when she tried to, you know, my girl at the time, she tried to go to that city college thing. And
where
never,
the stampede, where the people got killed.
people died. I never ever told her, you know, I'm not the kind of guy that would tell a girl, oh, you can't go there, you can't do this. I ain't never been like that. You got a daddy? Okay, because I'm not your daddy. I'm your man. You know what I mean? And if you don't know how to conduct yourself and move like you're supposed to move, then I won't be your man. But I am not policing no. So, you know, you go where the fuck I want to go. You go where the fuck you want to go. Just, you know, remember who you represent. So this particular day, I was like, nah, you can't go to that. You can't.
Really?
You
had a feeling. What made you have a feeling?
I didn't even think about it. It just came to me. And because it came to me and it was so much outside of my norm, I just paid attention to it, which is kind of like my superpower. You know what I mean? That's the reason why I remained alive, healthy, and free throughout my 17-and-a-half-year career, because when I got that feeling, when something told me, I listened. You know, so something told me, yo, don't let her go. And I was like, nah, you can't go. And she was.
Wow. And for those who don't know, it was some event he did, maybe in the days of
celebrity basketball game.
Okay, and there was a stampede. He overloaded it.
It was super
9
duper
people
overloaded.
died.
And it was a staircase
kinda,
that's really, really steep and goes really at a 90-degree angles, really steep. And
he lucked out in not getting any criminal charges.
Oh, very much so. Very much so.
And I don't know what the story behind that is, but he could have very easily been derailed. People get
he could have been done then. A lot of people
get sent to people get sent to prison for that. That has happened multiple times. You overload what the fire marshal has, people. That's manslaughter.
Yes. Yeah, it was him and Jessica. It was a white girl named Jessica. We used to call her Jessica. She's a white girl, apparently came from some sort of affluent family, whatever. And she was his partner with the party promotion. And so, you know, some kind of way they were able to finagle out of that situation. But she kind of left him holding that particular bag. And still, you know, he still managed to wiggle out of that. But it was pretty serious.
He's a survivor, that's for sure.
No doubt.
Just again, so people know that was a serious.
Very serious.
Many people go to prison for that type of stuff.
Yeah, there were multiple deaths, and many people do go to jail for that. That's why I was like, yeah,
they do,
done.
for sure.
You know, so
white people too.
Right. So this was in here. Yeah,
I mean, not to be funny, but like they put people in prison for that.
Even white people under those same circumstances will without the right connections, which Jessica had, would go to jail, which just was you know, she had the right connections, you know, family connections, whatever have you. So this thing with the real estate thing between he and her happened shortly after that, and maybe even during that time they might have been working together, you know, when that happened or whatever, or shortly after that they started working together, doing the real estate thing, her, you know, getting the spaces for his artists or whatever. So this particular night, she and my other chick go to this party that he's having with him and Mark, celebrating something, you know, and they both come back, and like when my girl gets back home, she tells me, you know, oh, you know, I was at, you know, Puff's party, and, you know, it was, you know, a bunch of people, blah, blah, blah. And then, you know, at some point, Puff jumps on Mark's back and starts, you know, going, giddy up, horsey, giddy up. Like, and she made it sound like that, like bitchish like that, you know what I'm saying? Like
in public like this?
Well, he was in his crib around people whom he considered to be close to him or whatever.
Oh,
you know
it was
saying?
like it wasn't like a per se public party.
No, but just this is, you know, just whoever he really kind of fucked with at that time, you know. And like, you know,
yeah, I've never, for all the horseplay I've engaged in, I've never done that.
Yeah. So you know, I could have gone, but like I did not, you know, fuck with that kid like that. Like we didn't have no correlation. I wasn't in the music industry. I was in the fucking street. You know what I'm saying? And at that time, street niggas really didn't pay no attention to industry niggas at all. Like for real, you know, except for the few who had their eyes on the future prize. You know what I'm saying? I did present that situation to Butch Cassidy. That one summer, you know, I think the summer of '92, we you know, just me alone.
You could see it, you could feel it coming. There are big economic opportunities.
Yeah, but me alone, I had that brought in that summer. I brought in probably $5 million. You know, that was just me. So I'm like, yo, bro, why don't we just do the music shit? And Butch Cassidy was like, you know, loyalty dictated that, you know, I follow, you know, my family. So
damn, so that was his right. That's interesting. So just off the top of his head, that's some old school. That's the same shit my father or something would say, like.
Yep.
I remember my father took me to see the Untouchables back when it came out. Remember Kevin Costner and all that? And he walked out early. Even I liked it. I was like 11 or 12. And he like hung out in the lobby. And I was like, why'd you walk out? He was like, oh, I can't stand to see dancers act tough. the actors in the movie, you know. And my father's not a criminal or nothing, but he's a man from Detroit in real life. So he was like, oh, I can't see actors act tough.
Yeah, I get it. My dad used to, you know, the original Batman, my dad, he didn't like it.
Oh, the one from the 60s?
Yeah, the original one with
with
Adam,
the makeup,
Adam West and all that. No, his thing.
Yeah.
He said, "Look, you watching them around in tights and shit,
tight costumes,
tights and grown ass men in tights and leather pants.
Welcome to Hollywood,
leather
baby.
Panties and shit." And I was like,
"Welcome to Hollywood."
They do have on tights and leather panties.
They do have on tights and leather panties. He wasn't lying.
You know, but that, you know, that's that old school. That's that. Like I've said before, that's them Jim Crow niggas, man. Them motherfuckers in
but
play.
there's sense to it, but the fact that he said it almost reflexively,
Yep.
and at this point, not to go into your uncle too much, but he was somebody been getting a lot of money for a long time.
That's
Sure,
right.
he rubbed shoulders, hanging out, whatever, socializing with rich people. He had to have known, you know, different black guys in the music industry just from rubbing shoulders. So the fact that came right off his tongue.
And he wanted nothing to do with it.
Not even a consideration.
He wanted nothing to do with it. That's just. They don't do that. I was like, oh, okay. There it is. So, you know, she comes home and she says, you know, Puff was acting like a, you know, but she didn't say that. She didn't say that. She just described his behavior. She said he was jumping on Mark's back and smacking him, like had his legs wrapped around his waist and was holding on to his neck and was slapping him on the ass. So I'm like, giddy up, horsey, giddy up.
I've never,
Right?
I've never
Yeah.
seen anything. I'm just saying I haven't even.
Yeah, that would have
seen-
disturbed the shit out of me. I would have left.
Yeah,
if I were there, I'd have been like, nah, bro. You don't do that shit in the presence of men.
I'm at the wrong party.
That's right. You don't do that in the presence of men. You know? You don't do that. You know?
Well,
so
certainly in the presence of some men if they're into it, but yeah,
right.
not us.
Yeah, not masculine men operating the way that nature intended. No, sir. Now the next day, I see my chick, and she starts to tell me about the party and Puff's behavior. When she goes to, explain Puff's behavior, I say, I heard, like I don't want to hear that again. I heard. I don't need no more details than what I heard. I'm cool. And she knew the only way, well, most likely the only way I heard was my girl told me, because she saw my girl there.
Girl.
You know, they saw each other there. So they know what they saw. You know what I mean? They know they saw each other. So she knows that most likely I knew that because this girl had told me.
So they both had the same story. So that wasn't no one of them saw something that they didn't see. That shit happened.
Exactly. So she goes, the chick, she goes and tells Puff that, Puff calls my girl at her office, right? She calls at her office. He calls at her office and said, this goes off. He's like, yo, what the fuck is up with you? You supposed to be my friend, and you're going to do me like that and this way that. She's like, yo, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, why you gonna go and tell Cavario that that I was acting like whatever? He's like, what you told? I didn't say that. I didn't say
And
that.
those words hadn't been used.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, well that's guilty.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, that's
exactly. So apparently,
and only
chick,
a man wouldn't like if I did something that was and I wasn't. If it was on some night I did some oddball shit, I'm gonna just pretend this didn't happen. I certainly wouldn't call no woman and talk about you supposed to be my friend. Like that's like girl talk right there to me.
Yeah. No doubt.
I mean, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm gonna call your wife. Why you tell Cavario I did? Like
That
don't
weird.
even sound right.
It's weird.
Yeah.
It's weird. So he says, you don't know who I am, and I can get something done to you.
Oh.
So she called. She said, oh, okay, motherfucker. She hangs up on him. She calls me, and she tells me. So immediately I'm like, where's this motherfucker? And so I called my chick and said, yo,
Wow, he threatened her.
What the fuck did you tell that boy that would make him call Tiffany and pop that type of shitty pop, and tell that motherfucker that when I see him, I'm gonna twist his head off like a bottle cap. Period. Right? So of course, and I said,
but he was aware of who you were.
Yes, he was. I said, you better motherfucking let him know. Like that's your friend. Better give him the heads up. Let him know. So, I don't know. A couple of weeks pass. I was spending most of my time in B-Mall, so I'm getting my money at. So I'm up in New York. It's around the Rucker. It's after the game. Everybody's milling around. This is when the Rucker was popping. Everybody's milling around. Puff's got his first car. It's a white 3 Series BMW. This basic white BMW. Got dark tint windows.
That's the baby
3
mama
Series.
BMW,
Yeah, 3 Series, whatever. Right. He's young. This is early.
Yeah.
So, now I don't know this. I'm standing there, right? I just got a page from my cousin. He's down in B-More, supposed to be, running things and operations while I'm up top. So the game is over. It's mad people milling around, mad, people all in the street. Like that's how it's like there used to be hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people just like, it's a beautiful.
And this is like 93, 94. New York is still dangerous.
This is 92. This is like
Okay,
92.
New York is still prime, dangerous, wild.
Oh yeah, I mean it's fucking New
This
York.
I'm just saying, this
New York.
before the crime calmed down. This when it's
Oh,
right
this
now.
is before Giuliani. So Giuliani's the one that put the fix on all that shit. But no, this is before Giuliani.
This is prime time for pipes.
Yeah. So I get the call. I go to the phone, get the page. I go to the phone, and this would be a bank of phones right in front of what used to be a Blimpies right on the corner. So it's a three phones, right? One in the middle, and two on the opposite, on either side, facing uptown and downtown, and right by the curb, like right by the street. And my cousin is telling me that he just lost 2 more of my pipes. 2 more. Now at this point, this is like.
I mean, a pipe that sends off small projectiles
Yes.
towards other human beings.
Yes, indeed.
Okay.
And one of them was, I had gotten it from my man Jason, his uncle, Face, rest in peace, Jason. And so if he tells me this and I'm infuriated, so I take the phone and I bang it. Like, and the impact is making the phone, the thing that the phones are on is making it like vibrate and shake, right? And I'm smacking them. You know what I mean? And there's a bunch of people are like, all in the street and shit, and cars are like trying to get through, waiting for people to, move out the way. And so, I'm not especially aware of any particular car going by, who might be in it, whatever. I'm like, I'm on 10. I'm fucking 38 hot, like, and I'm banging the phone like, I'm gonna kill this motherfucker. And so, I get a call like maybe 2 hours later, get a page, and it's my chick, right? It's my chick and my lieutenant, who's in Baltimore. His girl, right? They say, yo, we were in the car with Puff, and we rode by, and the windows were up or whatever. But when banged on the phone, it sounded like a shot from inside the car.
Oh, wow.
So we all turned, and when Puff turned and saw it was you, we thought he was going to run all the people down in the street in front of him. He said, he got so fucking scared. He was like, they gotta move.
Oh, so that was just a coincidence of the universe.
Yes,
That's funny.
No doubt. But he had the right idea though. He had the right idea because had I known he was in that car, it would have been bad. I was in a bad space in that very moment to see someone whom I had some real issue with. That it would have been a bad thing. It would have been a very, very bad thing.
So let's unpack that for a second. Or not unpack that, but let's tie that to what's going on now. So, just so refresh people's memory, in the Cassie lawsuit, she alleges he blew up Kid Cudi's car.
Yeah.
And then I guess it came out he held Wale over a balcony at some point not that long ago, which was bizarre. I guess that's true. He slapped either Drake or J. Cole to the point they had to dislocate his shoulder.
No, he slapped Drake. I was there. I was at
Oh, you were there.
we were at the Fountain Blue, out front of Fountain Blue. He slapped him twice.
Oh, okay. Well, let's fast forward to that story. Tell us that story.
I mean, I don't know what transpired prior to that.
You just happened to be outside.
But
Did they walk outside the club,
it was out front. You know how everybody be milling around out front in front of Fountain Blue?
And he slapped Drake.
He slapped him twice.
Now, wasn't Drake with people?
He had security with him. Puff had security with him. But this is the thing about regular people, regardless of how they like to swag and emote and behave and dress and try to take on the airs of, street people, thinking that this is cool. That, street people act the way that we act because we're trying to be cool and not because we are operating under a condition and and a behavior.
We're mentally disturbed.
We're mentally fucking disturbed. We're mentally disturbed. You know what I mean? Y'all might think it's cool. You watch too many fucking movies, but we are outside
'cause
of our
somebody
fucking
getting
minds. Okay.
slapping somebody who has people with him with guns. I mean, if you ain't even got to be particularly wild and crazy for that to lead to a gunplay.
But this is the thing that I was about to say. Regular people have a tendency to think, and this was true before rappers was getting a dime. They have a tendency to think that anybody who apparently appears to be well-heeled, to be getting some copious amounts of money, they must be tough, because that's what television and movies tell them. That everybody getting $2 over norm is tough. So, or you should be afraid of them, because even if they don't do something to you, they got money they can pay somebody to do something to you with. And, just because somebody can pay somebody to do something to you doesn't mean they have the inclination to do so, because just because
it doesn't
you pay
mean they will.
someone to do something,
Yeah.
it doesn't remove you from the, culpability.
Yeah, you still down with the violence.
still
yeah.
did it.
Well, you would. So he must have some regular security guards. He ain't had no goons with him.
Who? What's his face?
Drake, because
Maybe.
people be trained to go. They
Right.
would somebody depending who I'm with, be slap me. It ain't
You
gonna
gotta-
be me asking them to do anything.
You got to think about this. Obviously, Aubrey's not built like that, right? He's a nice little Jewish Canadian kid. He's not built to behave that way. You know what I mean? And good for fucking him. But the security guys, they know each other. All the security guys know each other. Okay.
Oh, so he ain't gotten his mob ties goons. These are the people that guard everybody. So it's like an incestuous. Well, maybe that's not a good term to use in this conversation, but I get what you're saying. Everybody
knows each other. So you got certain security guards that know the MOs of certain security guards, and you got a lot of guys who are doing security just because they're big. That's it.
Yes.
They ain't got no heart whatsoever. The whole idea is you look big and impressive, and people won't mess with me.
And they to keep fans away, really.
Yeah,
They're not.
Yeah, exactly.
They're not for street beef,
Right.
Right.
So
But if I got a guy with me who your security guard knows might get busy,
that's right.
I might get to slap you.
That's
or whatever
right.
the
That's
case
right.
may be.
Because your security knows that the security that Puff got with him, they are the guys who command the highest dollar, because they are the guys that are going to do the full-on thing. And it's like, I'm not about to die out here for you. Y'all better work this out. I'm not putting my hands on that man, and I'm not, gonna get into it with his security, because those dudes right there will shoot us to death out here. You know what I'm saying?
That's like what happened with NBA Youngboy and the guy from Detroit, T Grizzly, when there was that shootout and the innocent bystander got killed, and that was just from some wrong looks or something.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, he didn't do anything.
Wow,
But
that's interesting. So it wasn't just them alone; it was security there. Was Puffy? I mean, when you might see or hear of him, it sounds like he has a thing of well, maybe he likes ultra masculine men. I mean, he had Wolf. He has. If he was holding Wale over a balcony, he slapped Drake. He ain't the one who blew up Kid Cudi's car. If that happened, he had it done. He must keep people under him. That your buddy Roger Bonds was a security guard at one point. Not saying he did anything.
And Roger is a loyal
serious
soldier, and
serious.
Yes, and if you were to, Roger's cut from that same that cloth and character that I'm from. Like, if you fuck around, you're gonna find out. Like, Roger is not nobody to play with. He's a humble person, and relatively soft spoken. That's because he'll do it. That's why he ain't gonna talk nothing like that, because he's gonna do it, right? Roger did his time because he did a joint. You know what I'm saying? He knocked somebody off, and his man got arrested for it. Somebody who was known to be with him, he got arrested for it. And Roger went and said, no, he didn't do it. I did it.
Oh, wow. How much time did he do?
I think Roger did 10 joints behind that.
Oh, so he was in this. So Roger Barnes was interviewed by Vlad. He was a Harlem guy in Cavario's kind of era. He did that time, and then probably he became Puffy's bodyguard not long after getting out, huh?
Yep. Yep. But, you know,
So
like,
Puffy-
that got
Puffy
Roger
had
a lot
his-
of respect. A lot of respect. You know what I'm saying?
Puffy had his arms into the street enough to know, not arms, but just he knew who was
He's
who.
around Harlem. He's
And
around everybody. Like the guys he was hanging around.
I'm not
the same
gonna
gang.
get just. So that's
And
interesting
everybody.
that he would have bodyguards that aren't just to keep fans away or keep a robber away.
No,
but, like, for
because he
some
was a
street
target.
shit.
He was a target. Like,
Oh, the Suge thing and all
no,
that.
he was a target before Suge. He was a target before
just-
Suge. You know,
Oh, just period.
because people knew him too. He's not no street guy, you know what I mean? But he was making some moves, and he was doing some high profile relative to regular people, doing some high profile things, and that always makes the wolves curious.
Oh, that he be a good extortion target, not just straight up robbery, just like
Right.
press him.
Right. So, you know, at the point at which, you know, you come to that understanding, you realize the kind of security that you need. You need cats around you that people respect and are less inclined to try you. You know what I'm saying?
They don't even want the trouble.
Not
yeah.
not because motherfuckers just, you know, security and don't nobody know them. Well, I mean, you ain't.
Yeah, they get
oh,
shot.
You
They go
ain't.
shoot
That's
'em.
right. You ain't bulletproof, motherfucker. You're not bulletproof. Like what?
Hey, you might have a vest on, but
Right.
your face sure ain't got
Right,
one.
right. Burn your head off. So like, it don't mean no difference. It's got to be somebody that people respect and won't move, not because they're afraid that you aren't you're impervious to bullets, but because they have a respect for you. Oh, you fuck, that's your man. All right, we're gonna stall him out. That's your man because we respect you. You know what I'm saying? And you eating off of him. As long as a real nigga eating off of him, okay, it's cool. That type shit. You know what I mean? So yeah, you know, you got somebody around like Bonds, somebody who's loyal, somebody who's trustworthy. Like Bonds checks all the boxes for real, niggas. He checks all the boxes. So, you know, and a guy like Sean likes to be able to have that kind of association tie because it's, you know, he can leverage that. And he obviously learned very early the art of leveraging, right? So, you know, that's
Oh,
that
and
was
Wolf
his
was
play.
dead by this time.
Wolf died
Oh,
on
04,
November
03.
11, 2003. I think that was.
Yeah, so the Drake thing was like only about 10 or 8 years, eight years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Wow, so okay, that's interesting. I didn't know that. So
Yeah.
he smacked him in front of his security.
Yeah.
And then what?
Could
did
you imagine Drake
did-
being out in front of the Fountain Blue?
Get slapped. It's hard.
without
It's kinda hard
security?
to-
Without security?
Yeah.
No, he's with
Well,
security.
if you can get slapped, you really ain't got no security.
No,
but
you really don't. You really don't. You know, I guess they
So
told
what
him that
happened then?
we would have done something if it wasn't, you know, if it wasn't Puff. I mean, it was a revolt weekend like this. We're here because this man has, you know, created this situation. That's why we're here. Like this, everything happening this entire weekend is this guy. Like this guy is big, bro. You know what I mean? Like we ain't trying to have
that's
that kind
a
of problem.
weird
You fire us, and
personality
we still
for,
got the
for
problem with
him
this guy.
to
yeah.
for him to do that. Wow, that's interesting. That he really did that, and it wasn't them in private, some drunk spur of the moment. Like he took him out there to do it,
No, it was-
or he did it on
It
purpose
was
in front of
outside.
people
Oh,
to
no doubt,
establish
no
his
doubt.
dominance.
Oh yes, that's very much a thing with the young fella, with the young man, Sean. Definitely emasculating and dominating other men. That's obviously a character aspect of his character. Obviously,
Wow.
you know, ultimately, you know, time passed. The next time I seen Puff was maybe 6 months, a year, maybe. You know, it's hard to say. It was so long ago. But
Yeah.
not long after that instance where he passed by in the car with the two young ladies, I was coming out of this is 94, and I was coming out of the tunnel, and I was leaving early because I had to get on the road to get back down to B-More. So I'm walking, and I might have had like, I don't know, probably like 6 shots of tequila or something like that, you know. And so, you know, I was a little, you know, I was a little wavy, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, I'm walking down the street, there's nobody out there, right? Because it's like maybe 2:30 or something like that. So the party is now in high gear, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's New York.
Right.
That didn't close till 4 or 5.
So it's parties in high gear. Now, you know, I'm walking down the street and shit, and there's nobody out there. It's 27th Street. Nobody out there, right? Right up the West Side Highway. And I'm walking, and then all of a sudden, you know, I like dip, you know, to the right, to the right. I dip to the right, you know, and I made contact with somebody walking by, and I swear I did not see him. I didn't. There's nobody outside. When I came outside, there was nobody outside. So I started walking up the street towards my car, and I didn't see nobody. So, you know, I'm walking and shit, and I'm in my thoughts, you know. My mom I had just buried my mother, like maybe, I don't know, 2 days before. So I'm walking, and I make contact with somebody, you know, and I don't know who it is. I like, you know, it's kind of hard, you know, because, you know, I was kind of on one, so, you know, kind of leaned into him, on my shoulder, my right shoulder. And damn. Yep.
Yeah, my bad. A fucking thumb hit the button. I'm sorry. So you're
I
walking, you're wavy.
I was walking down, you know, the street, walking up the block towards my car and shit, and then I kind of, you know, swag into somebody and catch her with my right shoulder, you know, and I kind of catch them kind of hard, you know, catch their shoulder, boom, and I was walking, you know, I'm kind of despondent, you know what I mean? It's not just that I had these drinks, but I had just lost, you know, my God had just died, you know what I'm saying? So I was in a very, you know, messed up place, you know what I'm saying? So I took a couple more steps, because I was really just going to keep on walking. Like, I didn't even gonna bother turning around. Like, you know, I'm trying to hold on to my sanity and my humanity at this point, but I really don't give a fuck at this point about nothing. And I stopped to turn around and say, "Pardon me, brother," whoever you are, right? Pardon me. I said to turn around, and when I turn around, Puff is standing there, and he's looking at me, and I don't think he knew it was me until I bumped, until we made contact, and he like I guess at the point that we made contact with one another, he stopped at that point, and I guess he was waiting for whoever that was that bumped into him to turn around and just, like, you know, just a courtesy thing, like, "Oh, pardon me, brother," right? But I was a little slow in doing that, but then you know, my mind said, you know, apologize to that person. I went to turn around to apologize to him, and when he saw it was me, he looked like, oh, you know, like oh shit, and then he dropped his head, and he turned, and he was like shaking his head, and I started to go, hey Sean, pardon me, man, you know, because I'm not like that. I'm not a bully and no shit like that. You know what I mean? I started to say, "Yo, pardon me, man. Sorry about that." You know, because he had already sent, you know, apologies or whatever, this, that, for the other shit, whatever. But
about that first situation.
I was on, you know, I was on like, nigga, fuck that. Like, you know who I am. I guess I'm done. You know what I mean? Cats, I knocked the fuck out for talking that, you know who I am shit. Like, that's how you get knocked the fuck out. Say that to a real nigga. You know who I am? You're going to get your face knocked off, right? So that's what I was on initially, but at that point, and especially at that particular time, I'm like, man, I don't give a fuck about nothing, man. I just lost my mother, my nigga. I don't care about nothing. You know what I mean? So when I turned to say, you know, I'm sorry, he realized it was me, and he dropped his head, he turned around, he's like, you know, like, damn, man, like, you know, like, damn, man, why you messing with me? You know, and
oh wow,
I started to say, "Yo, Sean, man, like, that wasn't intentional, brother," you know? And then I was like, fuck that. You know, and I kept on walking that. He had gotten out of a burgundy Range Rover that was parked on the sidewalk on the other side of the street. So that's why I didn't see him when I first came out, because there was nobody. He's on the opposite side of the street where the club was. So and there was nobody there. So he was in his car, and so I was walking up the block or whatever. And I think at that point I just I'm lost in thought. I'm not really looking up. I looked up, see who was I in, it's kind of walking and shit. So it wasn't intentional, whatever. But I think at that point he had the impression that I was just on some like fucking with a nigga shit. But I wasn't. I wasn't. And then the next time we saw one another, he was doing parties at Dangerfield's, Rodney Dangerfield's old club called Dangerfield's.
Oh, wow.
And he used to do the party like Sunday nights or something like that. And he had some security with him, some guys who were doing security.
So he was by himself that night.
He was by himself that night. Yeah, he was by himself that night.
Oh, so he was
on the dark ass block, like 27th Street. Nobody's outside. Yeah, if I was on some fuck shit, he'd have been fucked up. You know what I mean? But one thing I've never been on is fuck shit. So he was out there this particular night, and when I pull up, I park, and I'm walking towards the club, and he was out there he's standing there talking to Misa, right?
Yeah, his first baby mom.
Right. So he's standing there talking to Misa. So he's facing her, she's facing him. So she sees me walking up. His security are both standing there on either side of him, right? These two big guys. So when I walk up, Misa goes, "Hi, Cavario," and he turns around like, "Oh shit," and he looks. But then he looks to his left and he looks to his right, like, "Oh, I'm good." And he just, he relaxes, and then he turns back to Misa, and then he hears his security guys, which Big V and somebody else. I can't remember who the other person was. And rest in peace.
Oh,
Big
you
V.
knew one of them.
I knew them both. I knew all security guards. From going to the clubs from 1979, 80 on, I knew all. They always used to work at the Disco Fever, or Uptown Garage, or
So these were security guards, not street guys.
These are security guards. And some of them, was doing something here or there. But security was really what they did. They were big guys who just really, I can make money, just walking around with a nigga.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
When you say street guys, I think guys like myself, whose bread and butter is, narcotic sales on the street. You know what I'm saying? Not who, every now and then they get their hands on something and they sell it, or, have it to some, give it to somebody to sell. That's not a street, that's a scrambler. We were hustlers. Those are scramblers.
Okay.
So when he turns back around and faces Misa, he hears his security guys going, "Bob, Bob." And he turns around, he looks either side of him, and they are on one knee with their heads bowed, going, "Bob," with their hands motioning from the head, "Bob," and that's on my mother. So he...
Like bowing down to you?
Yes.
What was out of fear, or?
No, out of respect. These are guys that know me. These are guys that were with me, guys that were down with me. So they know me. They know my real get down. These are guys that knew me from, being in the streets in the 80s. They knew I was what I am, or what I had
And they
been.
might have known about the problem.
No, they didn't. They didn't know nothing about the problem at all. You know what I mean? They always, you couldn't really have a problem with Bob and you just walking around, so they wouldn't think that. He turned around when he heard them saying that. He turned around and looked and saw his security niggas doing that, and he looked at me like, the expression on his face was like, "Who the fuck are you?" That was the expression on his face. It begged like, "Who are you?" type shit. On my mother. Rest in peace to Big V. My motherfucking brother. I love Big V, man. Big V died of cancer about 3 months ago now.
Oh, wow.
This is my guy. This guy was with me for years. You know, him and his brother Vaughn, Trooper. And these are two of the most, like, a lot, I would say a great many, there probably a lot of them that's you know, not active anymore, but a great many of the guys who would end up doing security for different antics, they all came up under Vaughn and Vernon, Trooper and Big V. Like, they brought them guys out, put them guys on, put them at clubs, put them with people. Like, very, very respected, real serious whip-ass motherfuckers who got down. They was under my wings. These my guys. You know what I mean? So, you know, those are the encounters that you know, kind of established the rapport such as it is with me and Sean.
Okay, so let me ask you this: when you got into doing Don Diva, you expressed you had, well, you probably didn't, looking back, behave how you should have, maybe with some of the slow bill payers. I mean, in the sense of, I mean, maybe it was appropriate how you behave, but it probably made people not want to mess with you. Do you think anyone, because it's, without going into the whole long Don Diva, it was doing very well, but you had issues maybe necessarily stepping up to the big corporate ad level, but could that been of how you were perceived or word he put out a little bit? Or
I don't think that he, at the point at which I made inroads into that space, was you know, he had a lot going on at that point. Like, if he thought that, you know, he had some kind of issue with me or, you know, whatever, by that point, by the time I started doing the magazine in 2000, you know, the first real actual issue, January 2000, he already, you know, was beginning to have significant issues with really problematic people who focus on trouble. You know what I mean? Who weren't, you know, about going out and making money. They were about going out and taking money.
You mean be not sugging that? Like what?
Nah,
These are
No, man. These are New York niggas that put work in, that got down.
Oh, so that was a known thing that he was, or you knew about it, that he was getting really pressed.
They all were. All of the industry niggas was getting pressed. All of them. They think the hip hop cops got so active. They all were getting pressed. All of them. It was all getting extorted, pressed some kind of way. There might be one or two that are some significance that wasn't feeling some kind of pressure. But you ain't gonna be doing all this flashing and dashing and looking like a real nigga, dressing like one, driving like one, and real niggas ain't getting none of that motherfucking money. You just gonna be okay. That's not how the jungle works. It don't work that way. So yeah.
Wow. All right. Well, that's some insight into Mr. Sean Combs and Cavario. So
We ended up getting cool, though.
Mark,
We ended up getting cool, and
you had a further conversation.
yeah, we ended up getting cool. Like, you know, years later, you know, he got to, I guess, interact with people who could tell him, like, oh, like, dude is really a hell of a guy, and he's a good guy. He's not a bad guy, a bad person, certainly not a jealous person, no shit like that. Like, it's a good dude. So, you know, we just bumping into each other at different events, and, you know, it just was always like, you know, whenever I see him, you know, because I'm as a black man, I am proud of all those men who've managed to, you know, Jay and Fifth and all, who've managed to acquire something and maintain it and build it, because I understand what it takes and what they're contending with. It's not just a matter of managing their good fortune. It's not just a matter of that. They have to contend with opposition.
There's
and
outside
predators.
forces coming
That's
at you
right.
of all different kinds.
That's right. You know, people who've been playing games and manipulating and playing people out of pocket and getting them off their square, you know, for 40 years before you came along. You know, and here you are coming up and posing a significant threat to their position, their power, the status quo. yeah, you on the radar, you know, and for them to be able to contend with those things, however they contend with them, I think that maybe Fifth probably contended with it in a more respectable and independent kind of way, you know. I think the others may have done a degree of acquiescing, you know, under the impression that they would have to in order for them to be able to